On March 14, 1988, rain pattered against the windows of the Victorian home at 423 Sycamore Hill. Inside, Linda Halpern's trembling fingers punched 911 into the kitchen wall phone. "Please, you have to help," she gasped between sobs. "My husband, he's fallen down the stairs. He's not breathing. Please hurry." Officer James Bentley arrived first at the scene, wipers slashing furiously against his windshield as he pulled up to the three-story home. The front door stood ajar. Inside, he found Linda kneeling next to her husband's crumpled form at the bottom of the ornate wooden staircase. Dr. Aaron Halpern, a fixture in Crescent Valley for over 20 years, lay awkwardly on his side, one arm twisted beneath him. A small pool of blood had formed beneath his head, staining the polished oak floor. Linda's cream-colored cardigan was smeared with crimson where she'd apparently cradled him. "I heard a terrible crash," she explained, voice cracking. "I was in the kitchen making tea. By the time I got here..." Her eyes welled with fresh tears. "He must have slipped. These stairs get so slick when it's humid." The paramedics arrived minutes later, but it was too late. Aaron Halpern, 54, beloved town doctor, was pronounced dead at the scene. Detective Martin Reeves arrived shortly after, surveying the scene with practiced eyes. "Did anyone else hear anything?" he asked, notebook in hand. Linda shook her head. "We were alone. Our housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, only comes Tuesdays and Thursdays." She twisted a diamond ring on her finger. Aaron had just come home from his evening rounds. He always checks on Mrs. Patterson up the street on Mondays. Reeves nodded slowly, making notes as the coroner examined the body. The preliminary ruling came quickly: accidental death from blunt force trauma to the occipital region of the skull, consistent with a backward fall downstairs. The case was closed within 48 hours. But Crescent Valley, population 12,463, was never good at keeping secrets. By the following Monday, whispers traveled through church pews and across supermarket aisles. Hank Wilson at the First National Bank mentioned to his wife that Dr. Halpern had doubled his life insurance policy just 6 weeks earlier, a healthy $750,000 payout. His wife told her sister, who mentioned it to her husband, who played racquetball with the county clerk. Information traveled faster than truth. Soon, everyone knew that Linda was significantly younger than Aaron, 39 to his 54. And hadn't his first wife, Elizabeth, died somewhat mysteriously just 3 years ago? Brain aneurysm, they'd said. No autopsy had been performed, the family doctor had signed the death certificate. That doctor? Aaron himself. Linda and Aaron had married barely 10 months ago, a quiet ceremony in Chicago rather than in town. Some noticed how quickly Aaron had moved on, and how different Linda was from bookish, community-minded Elizabeth. Linda with her fashionable clothes and city mannerisms, who rarely volunteered at local functions and kept to herself. Claudia Marsden could no longer contain her suspicions. Aaron's older sister had never warmed to Linda, finding her too polished, too perfect. On Wednesday, 9 days after Aaron's death, she marched into the Crescent Valley Police Station and demanded to speak with Detective Reeves. "My brother didn't just fall," she insisted, her thin hands clutching her purse with white knuckles. "Aaron was careful, methodical. He'd lived in that house for 18 years. He knew those stairs." Reeves leaned forward. "Do you have any evidence suggesting foul play, Mrs. Marsden?" Claudia's lips thinned to a hard line. "Last Sunday, 5 days before he died, Aaron called me. He sounded troubled. He said Linda had been acting strange, distant. Taking secret phone calls, disappearing for hours claiming she was shopping. He suspected she was having an affair." Reeves raised an eyebrow but remained silent, letting her continue. "Aaron told me he'd found receipts from the Lakeside Motel in her car. When he confronted her, she dismissed it, said she'd gone there for lunch with a friend." Claudia's voice hardened. "The Lakeside doesn't have a restaurant, Detective." The detective tapped his pen against his notepad. Anything else? Yes. Claudia leaned closer. Aaron was going to change his will. He'd called his attorney the day before he died. He was planning to remove Linda as sole heir and set up a trust instead. The appointment was scheduled for Thursday. She paused meaningfully. He died on Monday night. This was enough for Reeves to discreetly reopen the file, though not officially. He questioned the neighbors, who reported nothing unusual, except Mrs. Abernathy across the street, who mentioned seeing a man's silhouette in the Halpern's kitchen window several times in February, when Aaron was known to be working late at his practice. Meanwhile, Linda didn't linger in grief or in Crescent Valley. Within 2 weeks, she'd packed up personal belongings and moved out of the Sycamore Hill home, leaving most of the furniture behind. She purchased a modern condo in Westlake County, nearly 60 miles away. The insurance check cleared in April. By May, she'd bought a silver Mercedes convertible and opened Luxe, an upscale women's boutique in the Westlake shopping district. Her business partner raised eyebrows back in Crescent Valley, Mark Easton, a charismatic real estate agent who had once shown the Halperns several properties when they'd briefly considered downsizing the year before. Mark, divorced and in his early 40s, had a reputation as a smooth talker with an eye for wealthy clients. He'd left his realty firm around the same time Linda opened the boutique. Detective Reeves drove to Westlake twice in June, observing Linda and Mark from a distance. They seemed comfortable together, touching casually as they arranged displays in the boutique window. But it wasn't enough. Speculation and circumstantial evidence wouldn't reopen a case officially ruled an accident. Then came the breakthrough, nearly 2 years later. In January 1990, Margaret Winters, the Halperns' former housekeeper, came forward after moving back to Crescent Valley from Cincinnati. She requested a meeting with the new district attorney, a young, ambitious woman named Allison Chen. "I should have said something sooner," Mrs. Winters admitted, nervously smoothing her skirt in the DA's office. "But I needed the reference for my new job, and Linda, Mrs. Halpern, she had a way of making threats sound like friendly advice." "What did you witness, Mrs. Winters?" Chen asked. "It was about 3 weeks before the doctor died. I was cleaning upstairs, and they didn't know I was there. They were arguing in his study. I heard Mrs. Halpern shout, 'You think I married you for this?' Then something crashed, like she'd knocked something over." Mrs. Winters swallowed hard. Then she said, "You'll be gone soon enough. I'll get everything." Clear as day, those words made my blood run cold. "Did you tell anyone about this at the time?" Chen asked. "No, ma'am." Shame colored the housekeeper's face. "After the doctor died, Mrs. Halpern gave me 2 months' salary as severance and a glowing recommendation for my new job. I had my grandchildren to think about. But I haven't slept right since." This testimony was enough for D.A. Chen to petition a judge to reopen the investigation. Judge Morris Wilkins, who had played golf with Aaron for 15 years, didn't hesitate to sign the order. The exhumation order for Aaron's body came next. On a frigid February morning in 1990, forensic specialists from the State Crime Lab carefully examined the remains. Dr. Eliza Washington, the lead forensic pathologist, made the crucial discovery. "The skull fracture is inconsistent with a backward fall downstairs," she explained to Detective Reeves and D.A. Chen in the morgue. Her gloved finger traced the fracture pattern in the skull. "In stair falls, we typically see a single point of impact with radiating fractures. This shows 2 distinct impact sites." She pointed to a computer model. "This first indentation matches an object with a flat edge, possibly a heavy bookend or metal object. The second shows the pattern consistent with impact on a stair edge, but only after the victim was already unconscious or deceased." Her conclusion was unequivocal: Aaron Halpern had been struck from behind with an object, then pushed down the stairs to disguise the murder. When police arrived at Luxe Boutique the next day with a warrant, they found it closed, for renovations. Linda and Mark's condo had been emptied, with neighbors reporting they'd left hurriedly 3 days earlier, claiming a family emergency. Both of their bank accounts had been cleared out. Linda's Mercedes was found abandoned at Indianapolis International Airport. The manhunt made regional headlines for weeks. Investigators discovered that Mark had purchased 2 tickets to Toronto under the names Michael and Eleanor Gardner. From there, the trail went cold. Some speculated they'd continued to Europe, others believed they'd doubled back to the American Southwest. A clerk at a luxury car dealership in Phoenix reported selling a Range Rover to a couple matching their description in late 1990, but security footage was inconclusive. In 1991, Linda's boutique finally went into foreclosure, the business loans unpaid. The condo was sold at auction. The Sycamore Hill home, still part of the estate tied up in legal proceedings, eventually sold to a young doctor and his wife. The case remained open but inactive until 2017, when a librarian from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, contacted the Crescent Valley Police after seeing a true crime documentary featuring the case. "I'm almost certain she comes to our library," Meredith Holbrook insisted over the phone to Detective Reeves, now close to retirement. "She calls herself Eleanor Green. Same facial structure, though her hair is silver now, not blonde. She's always reading travel magazines and mystery novels. Been coming for years." Reeves flew to Idaho the next day. Working with local police, they set up surveillance at the small library. On the 3rd day, a silver-haired woman in her late 60s entered, wearing expensive but understated clothes and large sunglasses. She browsed the travel section before settling into a corner with a book. As officers approached, she looked up, seemed to recognize the situation immediately, and calmly walked to the women's restroom. By the time they entered, she had vanished through an emergency exit. Security cameras showed her getting into a waiting car driven by a man whose face wasn't visible. The license plate was registered to a deceased Idaho retiree. Today, the house at 423 Sycamore Hill stands beautifully restored. Dr. Jessica Lim and her husband have raised 2 children there, ignoring occasional comments about the home's history. But their teenage son once mentioned to friends that he sometimes hears strange creaking on the stairs at night, like someone carefully testing each step. And their daughter swears that twice, she's heard a woman's voice whispering, "You'll be gone soon enough." The Halpern case folders sit in a box in the Crescent Valley Police Department's archives. Detective Reeves retired in 2019, never having made an arrest, though he keeps a photo of Aaron and the case notes in his home office. Every March 14th, he calls D.A. Chen, now a federal judge, and they discuss new angles, though both know the chances grow slimmer each year. But in a quiet corner of Vancouver, a woman who calls herself Eleanor tends her garden, avoiding cameras and keeping to herself. Her neighbor, a retired widower, brings her groceries sometimes. They never discuss their pasts. His hands, once smooth and manicured for showing luxury properties, are now weathered from carpentry work. They are comfortable in their silence, in their carefully constructed anonymity, though sometimes she awakens in the night, hearing phantom footsteps on stairs she left behind decades ago. And in the shadows of their everyday routines, the question remains, did Linda and Mark escape justice forever, or is their isolation punishment of its own kind? Do they sleep peacefully, or are they haunted by the man who tumbled down the stairs on that rainy March night? Some crimes are solved with handcuffs, others with the slow erosion of conscience, a private justice that leaves no evidence, only the weight of secrets too heavy to ever put down.